But I try to just enlarge this a little bit. So I say, well, yes. And I have one picture, which I would love to share with you also, is where I say the leader needs to show the empathy for individuals, but also empathy for the system as a whole. And that's something that resonates, for example, also resonated yesterday, because there's this moment you don't even need to say explicitly, in this approach, we see organizations as living and intelligent systems and so on and so on. I think it almost goes without saying that the empathy for the system is needed. And somehow, even without words or even talking about what the system is there. And then later a theory can follow. But I think this is like to see how we are on the same page and to what extent actually leaders can open their hearts, not just their minds, to what extent they can open their hearts to what's going on, which later in the process of systemic change will be essential.
That sounds beautiful to me. And I would say that part of the systemic change might come from these 2 points you have already said. No? People's leaders just opening their heart and organizations being aware of or leaders being aware of the empathy for the organization. Can you explain a little more about this systemic change I'm sure you're talking about in your book also?
Actually, in the process of writing, somewhere in the I have it actually here on my flip chart. There was one moment when there's one graphics that actually came together, and then the sentence that came to my mind is that as a leader, your task is to reconcile the past and the future of the organization in the present. I will tell you what it means now, so it looks maybe official, or maybe abstract. In a way, it's clear that due to organizational history, organizational experiences, including organizational trauma, that actually many organizations actually passed in their history, organizations develop certain patterns in their systems, and which is again then visible in behaviors and as what we call culture often. But this is the past thing. This is something when you look at backwards, looking in the past through history, through origin. So when we speak about systemic empathy, actually, it often means understanding the current patterns a little bit retrospectively in the sense of what was this solution for before, and what was the meaning of these patterns for the system before judging them, before disregarding them, before cutting them, and whatever you would like to do. So that's why I said it's the systemic empathy is needed. But systemic empathy kind of look a little bit backwards to the past and to the past pains that organization maybe had passed through, so actually it became what it is now. And then it became actually very clear to me that systemic change actually has another half. So this is just a part of the story. And maybe because of systemic constellation work, sometimes we have tendency to look a little bit more into the past. In transgenerational work, in family constellations in general, looking back a little bit more into the past, let's say to the source. At the same time, in the presence, what is happening on the other side is that the future is also coming in. So the future, and along with the potential of the organization. So basically this message, what could be the better version of the organization in the future? So what's the better version that organization can become? And this comes in different kinds of messages. So at the same time, in the system, you have interplay between the past and the future. You have a little bit also interplay, if you want to say, between trauma and potential to some extent. And then I was saying, okay, in these graphics that I made, I think you need systemic empathy to understand and to go beyond the obvious, to understand what are the root causes, the reasons why the system is like this. But at the same time, you need to have awareness and the connection to the potential of the organization. So in a way, you are reconciling the past and the future of the organization in the present. And I think that's probably the core of systemic change. Actually, so it's not only about dealing with the past, but it is dealing with the past with the awareness and a deep connection of what we could become as organization in the future.